before I pan fry it. And spread it and level it in my pan. And it needs a couple hours, about 2 hours to chill. There we go. And then to cover it, just push the plastic wrap over. And I'll chill this down and just fry it up in a little while. Boy, that panisse sets up quite firmly when it comes out of the fridge. I do like to give it 2 hours. And then it becomes easy to handle. And let me get my non-stick pan heating up. And I cut this in 2 fingers, 16 of them, so 8 on each side. I'll cut it in half. The panisse is fully cooked. All I need to do is warm it through. So with some extra virgin olive oil in my pan, just crisp up the outside until it's golden. Okay. Yum. Ready to enjoy. I love that outside crust. It really is hearty and homemade. Well, I've just got to keep going. Next thing for me to make is my baked sole with quinoa puttanesca. Inspiration on a sunny day. Imagination, I'm running free. A homemade meal should make you happy. It should be hearty, but not too heavy. And I've got some great dishes that really hit the spot. First, I made vanilla tapioca pudding. Put little raspberries in the bottom. Dainty and delicate, but light and easy to make too. Then there's the herbed panisse with salsa verde. Oh, little fingers of chickpea flour with that herbaceous dipping sauce. And now I'm about to get into my baked sole with quinoa puttanesca. And yes, I am speaking English, but I'm cooking quinoa, which is an ancient grain. And it's fantastic. It's a complete protein. It's gluten-free. And honestly, it's easier to cook than rice or potatoes. And I've got 2 varieties here, white and red quinoa. I'm going to return my water to a boil, and I'm going to cook half a cup of each. What is important is to give them a good rinse before you add them to boiling water. There we go. I've got a pot of vigorously boiling water. So just like pasta, you salt it right before you add your quinoa. And I let it just boil away vigorously for 12 minutes. While that's cooking, I'll start on my baked sole dish. Pot for the sole that I'm actually going to put in the oven. So I want to get a sauce. I'll add some oregano sprigs and a bit of sliced shallot. As this comes up to a simmer, I'll just add this and let the flavor cook out a little bit while I get my fish ready. I've got sole right now, and I'm actually going to take the time to roll up the fish. And to keep them fastened, I just pierce it through with a toothpick. Of course, I'll be sure to pull that out before I serve it. And I'm rolling the skin inside. Now I can tell that the oregano has pretty much done its work. I'll shut off the heat. Now I can drop in my sole pieces. It's amazing how 3 simple ingredients can smell so good. A little sprinkle of salt over top, a little black pepper, just 1 little bit of butter. I've preheated my oven to 375, and I'll give this a good 15, more like 18 minutes in the oven. And when it flakes, when I touch it gently, then I know it's done. Just give the quinoa a few more minutes, and then I can dress the salad, and by that time, the sole will be baked. Look at how the quinoa has changed. You can see the little curly cues come out, and just like pasta, I just give it a taste for doneness, and it does have a little pop to it. Strain this. And I like to give the quinoa another rinse now. Now, for all those flavors that distinguish a puttanesca. The first, roasted pepper. And all I did to roast these peppers was put them whole in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Then I popped them into a bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and let them sweat until they cool to room temperature. And then the skins and seeds just come right off. As the roasted pepper sits, you get a little juice coming out of it. Oh, there's so much sweet flavor in that. I'm adding that into the quinoa. And now I have a mix of olives, pitted, green, and Kalamata. But what I like to do before I chop my olives is actually, they're pitted, but I cut them in half first, and that helps prevent them juicing out at you. And add a little oregano and a little chopped parsley. And just a touch of olive oil, really. Just a tablespoon is all you need to sort of coat all the ingredients. And I'm punching it up with caper. And this is optional too, to taste, or if you're keeping it vegetarian, you can leave this out, but a little bit of anchovy paste really adds a depth of flavor. It goes beyond salt. Let's not forget the garlic. Yeah, I think that's enough. And stir it all together. Just add a little pepper. And you know what? If I can take some raw garlic, I can take some dried red pepper chili flakes. And it's about time to pull out the fish. That smells divine. It is time to dish up. There we go. And just a little spoonful of that extra. But then the olive and the caper and the quinoa sort of jumps on top of it. It is hearty, but not so filling that I don't have room for dessert. I have to dig into my tapioca pudding. And for fun, I'm going to make a honeydew matcha tea bubble tea. Inspiration on a Sunday. Imagination running free. I'm having fun playing with my food. And it was fun making the vanilla tapioca pudding, but tapioca comes in many different forms. And bubble tea, boy, that's fun with tapioca. This is giant pearl tapioca. It comes like this, and what you do is you cook it in vigorously boiling water for at least 15 minutes until you get just that tiny little white dot in the middle. It should look almost clear. Drain it, and then I just simply toss it in a simple syrup. Equal parts of sugar and water cooked together. So I've got 2 cups of ripe honeydew melon. Get the juice in there and everything. And a little bit of lime zest for flavor. A couple tablespoons of honey to sweeten it. And matcha green tea powder. And you can find this at Asian food stores, also at tea shops too. And it's a very fine powder that you add directly to either steamed milk for a hot green tea, or I'm adding it right here. It's that flavor, you know, if you've ever had green tea ice cream, this sort of has that same character. Give this a little whir. And the last thing to pour in, a cup of ice cold milk. There we go. Now, to build the bubble tea, a couple of spoonfuls of these cooked tapioca pearls right in the bottom of the glass. Pour in the tea color. And you need to pick up a giant straw so that you can get the pearls, and I got one and the tea at the same time. Oh, but with the sweet honeydew, it's really quite refined. Isn't that lots of fun? The last thing, I got tapioca in two forms here. This beautiful and fluffy tapioca pudding with those now softened raspberries in there. Well, whatever you make, it should be happy, it should be hearty, and it should be homemade.
She's got imagination
like a bubbles stuck in my straw.
As far as she can see, she knows it's so inspiration on a sunny day. Friends and family will play.
I have a confession to make. I cannot get through the day without a little bit of cheese. Okay, a lot of cheese.
She's got imagination running free. Colors as far as she can see. She knows it's so inspiration on a sunny day. Friends and family will play.
Oh, it's true. I have a weakness for cheese. And so I've got some great recipes that really make that favorite ingredient of mine sparkle. I'll make an endive salad with oca cheese, which is a nice semi-soft cheese, and an apricot vinaigrette. A nice little sweet treat, honey ricotta with sweet marsala strawberries. But really, the pièce de résistance and all my energy right now is going into my giant ricotta and spinach ravioli with a sage and mint butter sauce. So what I'm going to do is start with the spinach. I've got a pot of water that I'll salt generously, and I've got 5 ounces of fresh spinach. And we'll drop that in the water. You can use frozen spinach in the recipe, but fresh is really just as fast, and you get a nice bright green color from it. I'll just drop it into the ice water, and that sets that green color. It halts the cooking process. So now I just take that and strain it. Okay, now it's time to make pasta. And squeezing out all the excess moisture. Isn't it funny? That whole colander full of fresh spinach leaves squeezes out to this tiny little, boy, it's not even a cup worth. And I'll puree it first. 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. While that's mixing, I'll add ½ a teaspoon of fine sea salt. And now I'm ready to add the eggs. Room temperature eggs are important, I find, to get the proper consistency in the pasta dough. And there we go. See how it looks dry and crumbly? But wait till I turn it out and you'll see how it comes together. So I have to give this time to rest in the refrigerator. Just wrap that up. While that's resting, I can get started on the ricotta filling. What I love about ricotta is you can use regular or low-fat interchangeably in recipes. I will add half a teaspoon of salt, little pepper, and nutmeg as well. For that cheesy oomph, I'm going to add Parmesan cheese, about half a cup. Give it a little taste. I could just sit down with a bowl of this. So I can add my egg, which will hold the filling together. And I'll keep this in the fridge while I let my pasta rest. All right, I've been rolling my pasta as wide as I can because these are for giant raviolis. Now, instead of making 50 little delicate ravioli, I actually want about 3 or 4 per person of giant ravioli. And I'm going to make 3 first. There we go. Now I'm ready to fill the pasta. I've got the ricotta Parmesan filling, and I don't have to be dainty at all here. Generous spoonfuls of the filling. And I spread the filling out. And all I have to do to make the pasta stick to each other, to enclose the ravioli, is brush just a little bit of water just on the outside. And you want to press starting from where the ricotta ends to try and push out any air bubbles that might be in there. This is the Papa Bear ravioli. We've got Baby Bear and Mama Bear. Now to make the sage butter to go with it. And it really is simple. I'll just start with a big spoonful of butter, just a sprig of sage. What I like to do is actually infuse the sage flavor into the butter, and then I'll pull it out so I get a subtle addition of sage flavor, and I'll sprinkle just a touch of it on top at the very end, and a couple of mint leaves. What I'm doing is making a chiffonade, an actual ribbon cut of the herbs. I'm not just roughly chopping them. Now my water's boiling. I'll add a generous salt to the pot and drop in the pasta. The nice thing about cooking fresh pasta, it takes less than 2 minutes to cook. All right, just one little coat. Wow! So, honey, what'd you have for dinner tonight? Oh, I had 3 ravioli. I'm stuffed. The rest of the butter on there. A sprinkle of sea salt, pepper, mint and sage, and, of course, a little more Parmesan cheese. Well, after a pasta dish like this, you know what I need? A nice salad. An endive radicchio salad with apricot vinaigrette and oca cheese.
Imagination running free. Inspiration on a sunny day.
I am clearly in a cheesy mood because everything I'm making has cheese in it, including the salad. An endive and radicchio salad with oca cheese and an apricot vinaigrette. And this is my take on cheese course meets salad. But I'll start with the vinaigrette. I've started by soaking 4 dried apricots in a little warm water. I actually want to set aside some of it because the water's picked up some of that apricot flavor. But I might as well work in, while the apricots are still a little warm, a little more flavor. A little bit of lemon zest. Instead of a wine vinegar or a balsamic vinegar in the salad, I'm just simply going to use lemon juice. I'll just strain the lemon juice into my bowl here, and a little bit of mustard. A classic vinaigrette has a bit of Dijon mustard. You can use powdered if you wish. And its function isn't just that little nip of flavor, but it actually binds the acidity to the oil, so you get a creamy textured dressing. And in this case, I'm using extra virgin olive oil. But before you add the oil, you have to whisk the mustard into the vinaigrette. And then a slim stream. Since I've only added a 2-to-1 ratio, so essentially a lot less oil than a traditional vinaigrette, I need to replace that. I actually want to lighten up the dressing. So I replace a few tablespoons of oil with simply a few tablespoons of water. Stir in those apricots. Look at that beautiful apricot colored dressing. A little salt and pepper. And I put in a few chopped chives. Give these just a quick little rinse. Now here's my platter. I've got some washed radicchio leaves. Here we go. And I'll cut up some of the remaining leaves, finely shred it so it's easy to eat. And then Belgian endive. I'm just going to put 2 endive leaves just as sort of a frame to the salad. And then chop this up too. And into my salad bowl. For a little bit of sweetness, I'm going to add some chopped celery. Now. And so I'll spoon some of the dressing right on here. Now it's time to add the things that I like on the cheese plate. Pear complements just about any variety of cheese. And I love pear in a salad. Few nice slices on each, and what I'm doing right now is actually arranging salad for 2, so that way I've got 2 complete salads I can bring to the table on a platter, but then spoon the whole salad up and some grapes. But to make them easier to eat in a salad, I like to cut them in half, and that way they take on some of the vinaigrette flavor too. And before I finally get to the cheese, a little sprinkling of lightly toasted walnuts. And I've specifically chosen them to go with my Oka cheese. Just a little finish of the vinaigrette to cover over these last ingredients. Here we go. And saving the best for last, this is a beautiful cheese, a typical example of a washed, rind, aged, semi-soft cheese. You actually shape the cheese curds in a mold and you let them sit and age. And instead of actually adding salt to the cheese mixture, what they do as the cheese ages is actually wash the rind with the salt mixture. And that's what gets that beautiful orange color as it ages. And a semi-soft cheese can keep in the fridge once cut for a good 10 to 14 days. So, being a nice small wheel, I think I'll cut little wedges. That way everyone gets an equal portion of the rind. And oh, please, make sure you eat that rind. It's part of the best part of the cheese itself. And that, I think, is a gorgeous salad. I'll have a little taste right now. Okay, and a giant piece of cheese. Honestly, that is one of my favorite cheeses. Well, you'd think that'd be enough cheese for me, but you know what? I'm in the mood to cook some more. Cheddar.
Imagination running free. Inspiration on a sunny day.
I am getting cheesy using one of my favorite ingredients, cheese, in everything I'm making. I started things off with a spinach and ricotta ravioli with a sage and mint butter. Ooh, that was good. And then, to lighten things up a little bit, my endive and radicchio salad with oca cheese and an apricot vinaigrette. And, well, you know, I'm going to be making my honeyed ricotta with marsala glazed strawberries in a little bit. But now it's time to use the cheddar soup. And this is one of those great soup recipes where you can get it on the stove and have it at the table, seriously, in 20 minutes. It is that easy. I'll add a couple tablespoons of butter. And after that melts, I'll add some finely diced onion and a little bit of finely diced red bell pepper. All right, and in go the peppers and the onion. And I'll give that a stir. And the key here is to cook the onions until they're translucent. This takes about 5 minutes over a moderate heat. Grab my flour. This is a flour thickened soup. I'm essentially making a roux, the combination of the butter and the flour together. And I do like to sift it. I sift it right into the pot, 1/3 of a cup. I can't add the liquid right away. Have to give the flour a few minutes to coat all the onions and the peppers, but as well cook out so that it can actually thicken the liquid. Turn it down just a touch more and go get the liquids that are the base for the soup. Some milk and some chicken stock. First, I'll measure 2 cups of milk. I'll start with a whisk, but I can switch pretty quickly back to the spoon. And first I add a little at a time to loosen up the flour. And now that I've added the liquid, I can turn up the heat. Now I can switch back to the spoon. There. And as well, 2 cups of chicken stock. Actually, this recipe makes a great cheese sauce, but what I do is skip the chicken stock, and you end up with a big batch, mind you, but a great cheese sauce. I'll give this a cover. Can't forget the cheese. There's 2 other ingredients I still need to add. A little bit of garlic, finely grated so it cooks into the soup, and a teaspoon of mustard powder. It gives a nice little zip to the soup as well. And speaking of zip, if you like it, a little pinch of cayenne pepper is rather nice. There we go. But I might as well get the cheese ready. This is 3/4 of a pound of cheddar cheese, so this is definitely soup to feed a crowd. The soup is up to a full simmer, so now that it's stopped, I'll start by adding a little. Okay, in my world, that's a little. A little more. A little pepper. I'll taste it first before I add salt, just because the cheese might have just enough salt in it. That does not need a thing. Sprinkle of cheese on top. Okay, a little more. Well, this will get me in the mood to make a little dessert. My honeyed ricotta with marsala glazed strawberries. But first, I need to be alone with the soup.
vacation on a sunny day.
I am not done being cheesy yet. I still have room for dessert, but something simple that you can prepare in a flash. This is great if you've got last-minute guests coming over. Honeyed ricotta with sweet marsala glazed strawberries. Now, this is one of those great places to use low-fat ricotta if you wish. It's just as creamy and satisfying. A little bit of honey and just a touch of vanilla bean paste. And then a little bit of orange zest.